Welcome to Education Talks. I'm David Burke. Craig Kemp is the co-founder and CEO of EduSpark. Previously, he had a long career in education, working as a primary teacher and assistant principal before moving to a specialist EdTech school leadership role in Singapore, then working exclusively in EdTech. I was keen to learn about his journey from New Zealand to Singapore, what drove him in his quest to establish EduSpark, and what we can all look forward to with this exciting platform.
Well, Craig Kemp, welcome to Education Talks. Gee, what a setting.
Pretty amazing, isn't it? Yeah, thanks for coming out and experiencing Singapore with me today.
Yeah, what a great spot. How long have you been living here in Singapore?
Yeah, good question. So I've been here almost 11 years now. It's been a long time.
Wow.
Yeah, we thought we'd come over for a couple of years and 11 years later.
Great place to be. So can you just take us back through your journey that brought you here to Singapore, and where did you start teaching, and how did things bring you here?
Yeah, so I'm a career teacher, been in it my whole life, been working with educators or with kids since I was a kid, coaching all the way through. My mum was a late teacher trainee, went through when I was in high school, went through teacher training college, decided that was the thing for her. So when I was 15, 16, she was training to be a teacher, which was pretty inspiring actually, that, a lady of 40, 50 decides that she wants to do something else. She was a teaching assistant and wanted to really be inspirational for the next generation, which was pretty cool. So I saw that. I was doing a bunch of sport coaching, interacting with kids, seeing their growth and development. And honestly, I got to the end of my high school time and just thought, really don't know what I want to do. I really don't know what to do. I thought I might want to do sports science or something like that, but went to teachers college as sort of a fallback, honestly. And then I loved it. The moment I arrived, traveled down to Christchurch in the South Island, did my teacher training, met my wife now, moved down to Dunedin, the bottom of the South Island, thought we'd be there for a couple of years and ended up teaching there and became an assistant principal, worked in a pretty cool small primary school for 7 or 8 years. And then, we sort of got stuck. We were in a rut, doing the same thing every day. We love New Zealand, but we wanted to do something more. We love travel. We'd just done a little Southeast Asia trip, first time really traveling, and fell in love with Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. And we just said to each other, let's do it. Let's make a move. Let's try something new. So we jumped on. My wife's not in education, but we sort of jumped on and found some jobs. Said, right, first person to get a job, we're going to go there. Doesn't matter where we go. We don't have kids. We don't have commitment. And I got a job here in Singapore at a small Australian curriculum school. And it started 3 weeks after we got married. So, we committed, quit my job in New Zealand, got married, flew out sort of 4 days later. My wife joined me a couple of weeks later and we were here, and worked in a small Australian curriculum school as a grade 3-4 teacher, supported in the rollout of some tech stuff because that became my passion after rolling out some iPad programs in New Zealand. And then it sort of just scaled from there. We thought, right, I think we're done here. 3 or 4 years later, another opportunity came up, got my role as a tech director at Stanford American. That's sort of how my journey started and got into this place. Yeah.
Okay, so that brings you up to Singapore. And where did you work here in Singapore?
Yeah, so my first role in that small Australian school was brilliant. Loved it, very small, but then I wanted a bigger opportunity. I wanted to do more. I wanted to really dive into the tech side of things. And I decided that I'd open up to opportunities. What's out there? What could I do? I applied for a couple of roles and I managed to get a role at Stanford American International School, a large 3,500 student American international school here in Singapore, which then moved into a sort of head of educational technology and innovation role, which was super exciting. We built then a team out of sort of 5 coaching staff to really change the mindset of IT to EdTech. And how can we transform learning with the technology that we had? Budgets weren't a problem. We were able to use the technology we had, but it really wasn't impacting learning. So we developed an amazing team of people who I now call my close friends, and we worked together for several years, 4 years at Stanford American, built a pretty amazing program, had the opportunity to share that out around the world as well.
Yeah. So at what point did you then sort of decide that you wanted to step out of schools?
Yeah, it was a tough decision. At that point I had started speaking because of the success of our programs and the work that we were doing. So I was traveling to places like Australia, all around Asia, speaking, starting to do the circuit a little bit in terms of speaking and sharing. And while I liked it, I didn't love it, and I liked sharing, but I'm really an introvert. I come across as an extrovert, but I'm really not. I prefer sitting at home in my pajamas, just chilling out, learning online. That's my jam. But I do love connecting and engaging with people, and I do love sort of sharing that out. So it got to the point where I was doing so much that it was like 2 full-time jobs. I was traveling to Australia for 2 weeks in my holidays, working with schools, building strategy, traveling to Europe. I was in Spain and then all across Asia. And it got to the point where my school holidays, where I wanted to spend time with my family, and at that point I had some young kids. And it got to that point where, my wife said, you've got to make a choice. Do one thing or the other, and make a run for it. And if it doesn't work with this consultancy thing, you've got your education stuff to fall back on. It's a great thing to be able to jump back into. So I went for it. Gave my 8 months notice or whatever I had to give, and that's 4 years ago today. And dived into the consultancy thing, and it was something that I really never thought that I'd do. The word consultant to me as a teacher was always like a dirty word, and I can't do it, don't want to dive into it. But yeah, here I am now.
So Craig, what are some of the strategies that you work on with schools in relation to implementing a successful tech program?
Yeah, I mean, the work that I do with schools is quite diverse in nature, but I do a lot of work around stepping back and starting with an audit. And one of the things I always recommend is do an audit, not of tech tools necessarily, but of people. And let's talk to people, because you'll know this, Dave, and I'm sure people listening as well. As soon as you have an external person come into your school, you can inside of the school be preaching and telling them all these things. But as soon as you have an external person come in and other people hear it, it starts that process. And you can say, I've been telling you this for 2 years, but it's just the reality. I experienced this inside of the school. It's just the way it is. And so we work on this audit where we say to schools, let's talk to your teachers, let's talk to your leaders, let's talk to parents and kids, and really get an understanding of how technology is being used to add value to learning, and not just student learning, but adult learning, parent engagement. Then we can look at tools and we can say, well, let's look at our tech stack. What do we need? What do we not need? Let's look at subscriptions. What are we paying for that we don't need anymore? We can actually save money, be more efficient and effective by stopping and taking a look at that. And teachers and leaders in schools just don't have time to do that. So when we come into schools, we get to work with them on all of those things. And then we start to say, right, here are some recommendations. Here are what people are saying. Here's what we've noticed. This is what we think you should do. This is what we think you should try and implement. And a lot of that's to do with the people. How do we build capacity internally? Because you don't want to be paying for an external consultant to be hanging around with you for months and months to transform a school. You've already got internal expertise, hopefully, that can do that for you. So we can jump in, we can start that process, kick things off, and be sort of prods along the way to keep momentum going and suggest those successful ways of moving forward.
So that was Ignite EdTech.
Yeah.
And that was successful, but then you decided to do something even bigger, perhaps.
Yeah, so Ignite EdTech was born out of supporting schools in their journey with integrating technology. I noticed that I felt like I could do more. I felt that I could work with people outside of that silo of a school and have a bigger impact. Outside of speaking and doing those one-offs, I wanted to support schools in building strategy, building competence, and building their skill set so that they could drive technology integration in their school like we had done. So that's sort of where Ignite EdTech went. Over the last few years, that's transitioned into multiple other avenues. I do a lot of work now with EdTech companies, really built out of my frustration of being a tech director, having companies come to me to try and sell me their products, and just these companies who have no idea about education, trying to sell to educators. And I just felt that there was a far better way to do that, more strategic, more educational focused, and really started building out that with the work that I do now. And then, diving into your question about what happened next, and that's really now with EduSpark. It was really born out of my frustration of professional learning, frustrated by what was happening for me as a learner, that was so disaggregated. There was just stuff everywhere, and I could jump into whatever I wanted to do, but it was really at my expense, my time. My school was paying, not just my school, every school in Asia, paying for people to fly in, tens of thousands of dollars for a 1-day, 2-day workshop. Teachers would go back and continue on with day-to-day operations. We would have, amazing people in my school, but I would never have access to them because it wasn't for me. So I would have to go and find my thing. So really it was built out of that frustration that EduSpark was born. We wanted to create a place built by educators for educators to bring together the best of the best from all over the world.
Fantastic. Can you give us a little bit of an insight to what we can look forward to with EduSpark?
Yeah, so we're now at a place, we've got about 130 courses with incredible leaders of learning from all over the world. People like Richard Gerver, Kath Murdoch, Kimberly Mitchell, Tanya Latanzio, Tonya Gilchrist. The list goes on of incredible leaders. We're continuing to build these amazing partnerships with incredible leaders of learning, but teachers and leaders in schools who have a voice, and we want to help amplify that voice. So we're going to continue to build out incredible content based on what schools tell us they want and need, but we're also moving into the tech space in terms of what we've built out, because everything in EduSpark has been built from scratch. So the intention for us now is to listen more than we talk and action, that whole process. So we listen to schools. We work with more than a dozen international schools now in Asia, where we support the entire transformation of professional learning and development for a school, not just online, but in person, hybrid learning, and really taking that COVID step into that face-to-face culmination. And how do we combine those? So you'll see a lot of growth and development in that hybrid learning space, a lot of growth and development in the needs of schools. We're hearing lots of things about DEIJ, well-being, tech and innovation, literacy, numeracy, and into all sorts of other areas of development as well. The next stages for our tech side of things, we're building out a whole portfolio and appraisal system where we're going to build evidence-based portfolios in blockchain that are owned by the individual. We work now with schools where they can build their own content and really take it to the next level, because we're seeing huge amounts of success with the schools we're working with in that transformative power of what this professional learning ecosystem can do. And then we're moving into all sorts of other areas, including events and other spaces with those physical things as well.
Craig, are there any events coming up that EduSpark are working on?
Yeah, we've got a lot in the pipeline, Dave. We've got a lot going on, but very soon, this week, we're heading to Bangkok for the Fabricia CPD Leaders Conference, which is going to bring together about 50, 60 professional development leaders from across the region, part of the Federation of British International Schools in Asia, bringing them together to chat, to learn, to discuss from the 24th to the 26th of November. We've already hosted a pre-conference with Richard Gerver, virtually and online, bringing them together, and then we're going to be there face-to-face for this hybrid interaction inside and outside of EduSpark too. And then we're actually planning some big things early 2023. March, we're looking at some events in Bali, where we're going to bring together some inquiry learning leaders for some hybrid learning events. We're also going to August and September next year, bringing together people to the Maldives, probably Singapore, maybe in Thailand, leaders, teachers, all within that space to start this hybrid experience. We've also got some fully virtual events coming up, and anyone interested in events or bringing together people for learning opportunities, we'd love to have a chat, because we've got some really cool different ways of doing things now that we'd love to experience and work together on.
It's very exciting, and in fact there's a link just down here that will get you to EduSpark. You can check it out. Now, something else which is exciting is, of course, you're the host of the Ignite EdTech podcast, and a question that you ask your guests each week is, what is your favorite EdTech tool?
Yeah.
Would you like to share yours with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was something that I started a wee while ago to try and bring together the best of the best from actual practice. I actually never get asked this question. I'm on the other end normally asking the question.
It's much easier over here.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I always have sort of two standout tools that I always come back to. One is Flipgrid, or now Flip. For me, it's just this incredible free tool that anyone can get their hands on to get the best out of their kids or even their teachers. Why not use something that's free, powerful, and credible that gets that voice video response that you need to maybe engage those learners, whether they're adult learners or student learners, that don't always want to have a voice or a say. And there's so many features now, including accessibility features that make this super accessible for all learners. My second one that I'll add as a bonus is Moat. I'm a huge fan of accessible feedback and making it quick and easy to get to. Moat is just an incredible tool for that verbal feedback that makes a teacher's job much easier, much quicker, and much more accessible.
Right, Craig. So is there one thing that you're really excited about that you're currently working on?
Yeah, great question. The hard part is one thing, I guess. There's so many things going on, but I think for me, it's EduSpark and our vision. It's not very often have the opportunity to dive into the EdTech space and build something that's actually making a difference. I have conversations with school leaders and teachers every day. And every time we share EduSpark, our current journey and where we're going, we're met with an incredible positivity. People that want to jump on board immediately. I was just in schools here yesterday, and the vision of where this is going, people want to be involved, people want to jump on board, and the vision of EduSpark is really built on what do schools tell us they want and need. We're not owned by a massive equity company, we're owned by a couple of educators trying to make a difference, which means that we can act fast, we can move, and we can be adaptable and flexible, and that's exactly what we're doing. So super excited about where we're going and excited to take this journey on with others as well.
All right, Craig, I need some advice. What's some of your hot tips for making a successful show, podcast?
Yeah, so the Ignite EdTech podcast really was formed out of I started a blog on my website, mrkempnz.com was my website, and it still exists today. And I blogged and I blogged and I blogged, and I realized I hated writing, right? I just wasn't good at it, and it was just a pain. But I realized I could talk. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, I started the podcast, just like hundreds of other people, but it's now 110 episodes deep. I've spoken with some of the most inspiring and incredible people from around the world. And honestly, for me, it's going back to basics. I don't use anything incredibly technical. I use GarageBand for my editing because it's easy. You don't need anything over the top. I use Zencaster to bring people in. And then I use Buzzsprout to push it out to all the channels. But for me, it's simplicity. People very quickly tell you, 10 to 30 minutes is the sweet spot. For me, it's around the 20-minute mark. Free episodes every week. I drop it every Friday. So for me, it's about consistency. And I have the same flow. So, I give tips and advice. I interview someone incredible. And then I share some of my favorite tools. So for me, it's go back to basics. Choose simple tools that you know. You don't need to dive into expensive equipment and expensive tools. Do the things you're comfortable with. Bring on incredible people. Talk about things that you're passionate about, and share it out to social media.
Now, people watching this, they think, gee, this guy's fantastic, want to reach out and connect with Craig. How do they do that?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on any social media, Twitter, @MrKempNZ, same on Instagram, Facebook. You can find the Ignite EdTech podcast or EduSpark. You can find us on all social channels. LinkedIn is very easy, Craig Kemp Singapore. I'm sure you'll throw the links down below as well for people to check out.
I'll be there. Now, Craig, it's been fantastic to catch up, and I think it might be time to go and have some brunch. What do you think?
100%. Let's go and enjoy beautiful Singapore.
Excellent. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of Education Talks, please do share with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to stay subscribed to catch each new episode.